talk also about China and Taiwan. That's very important. I know that China is not going to walk away with this thing without taking Taiwan. So that's not even started.
They're not getting Taiwan. They're not.
Oh, that's interesting because a lot of people would be at odds with you. So let's talk about that. Let's start there. China, Taiwan.
You think Trump's going to let China have Taiwan? We're going to give it away in this chess game? Are you serious?
Too many important minerals there?
Has nothing to do with the minerals. It's the people. We're not going to abandon the people of Taiwan. Okay? They're not a piece that we're willing to give away. We're not letting China get away with it. In fact, I'll say this.
Interesting.
Within the docket of things we intend to do, because we're going after China. Remember, Trump specifically, precisely named China as having orchestrated the theft of the 2020 election against the American people.
U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voter data in 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China.
And 71 other countries, including South Korea, where the president sits in prison right now, including Brazil, where the president sits in jail right now. And we're going to stand by and let them have that? Are you absolutely kidding?
Well, you make a valid point.
Any concept of who President Trump is, who he is as a person, and what he's doing. He's painting his masterpiece. Don't you see that? The curative effect of justice being meted out is not served when that justice is hidden under a basket. Horrible crimes have been committed, not just against the American people, but out across the world in the name of the American people. And so we have to be able to separate and divide off from the rest of the population these monsters who have found their way to power, found their way to positions of influence, and taken the lifeblood, the energy of the American people through taxes and authorities like that, and literally led genocides across the world. The COVID crisis was always a globalista plan to hijack elections, not just in America, but across the world, to put in leadership which wasn't the will of the people, put them in charge, and then to hijack, pirate control of the ship of state. The reality is the attack with COVID was always about elections. Remember, COVID occurred in an election year leading up to the elections, after Trump became president visibly again. And they're here now testifying before grand juries. They say that they flipped and stole elections in 71 countries plus the United States, literally over half the population of the world. You have to slow down and think about what I'm telling you. Don't just gloss past this.
The only thing I could tell you is that I basically told you, hey, this is what other people are saying. How do you react to what they're saying? And you said, no way. You actually, I think I hit a funny bone. I think I got you really animated there for a little bit.
You did, because you pissed me off, because you're saying you're going to get something. We're not giving any ground. We're taking ground.
Yes.
We're taking ground. That's why he said in the Thursday thing, we're coming after you.
Yes.
And we're not letting you get away with this.
I love when I hit that funny bone.
Fuck.
Welcome to the Mel Carmine podcast. Before we begin, I have something you need to see. 11 years ago in Costa Rica, I took a photograph that changed my life forever. I don't claim to speak to God, but I do believe he gave me a mission. Let me show you the photo, then you decide. If you're serious about protecting and growing your wealth, pay close attention. Looking to acquire XRP, I can help. Minimum purchase is $10,000 and there is no maximum. Whether you're investing $10,000 or $10 million, text me directly at 786-704-8817. And while you're at it, ask us how a religious irrevocable trust can get you off the grid and fully protect your assets and investments. Interested in gold and silver? For extremely competitive prices, visit carminesgold.com. Our minimum order is $50,000 and there is no maximum. We can handle virtually any size transaction. Then visit QFS1776.com for exclusive merchandise, links to our social media, and a library of 100% free videos explaining the new financial system millions are following. No hype, no paywall, just information. Don't miss our 5-star documentary everyone is talking about. Dear Mr. President, show me the money. Visit dearmrpresident.net and ask yourself, what if we show you irrefutable, irrevocable evidence in our movie that everyone with a social security number is worth hundreds of millions of dollars? Do we have your attention? The link is in the description below. Finally, join our official Telegram groups and be aware of fake Mel Carmine accounts. If anyone tells you that you must register your XRP with the so-called quantum financial system, it's a scam. Now subscribe and share this episode with someone you care about. Turn up the heat on these scammers and let's get to work. Also, scan the QR code and opt in so you don't miss any amazing workshops at Staying Alive in Cape Canaveral. Now, here's your host, Mel Carmine. Well, folks, when you have a setting like this and it looks like someone's sitting at the Garden of Eden, it's probably because they are. Yes, we got Juanito with us, and he's somewhere in Far East Asia. I know exactly where he's at, but I'm not going to give away his location. You know, Juan and I have had conversations on the record, off the record, and I always ask for permission. I don't want to ask for forgiveness. I want to ask for permission first because some of this stuff is so sensitive. And I think the reason why Juanito, now actually I know why, is so confident that the arrests will happen. His chief of staff, who I happen to know personally, is a great man, Matt. Matt was the guy that's responsible to go down to Guantanamo Bay to oversee the expansion and the media rooms and probably things that I don't even know that I'm sure that maybe Juanito will enlighten us and fill in the blanks. This is why he is so confident that the arrests are coming. In case you guys are all wondering, the guy that works for him has a hand in this whole entire thing. And I try to get in touch with Matt. Matt's probably just as busy as Juanito, if not busier. And every time I call him, he is, right? And yeah. And every time I try to reach him, hey, I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'll try to reach you later. This is a busy man. These guys are on a mission to make sure that what needs to take place will take place. Juanito, there's so much to discuss. I mean, we're maybe at a precipice of a peace deal with Iran. I'm sure you'll fill in those blanks as well. Are we getting close to having peace on earth? Welcome to the Mel Carmine Show, my friend.
Well, it might be a little premature, peace on earth, puppies and kittens playing together peacefully. Let me just, a couple points of clarification. Matt's work at Guantanamo was before he left active service in the Marines. So it's been quite some time since he lived and worked at Guantanamo. He lived there for about a year and a half. He actually served on tribunals and worked as a investigator in military tribunals there at Gitmo. And while he was there, he supervised the installation of a media center at Guantanamo. Now, he has since gone on to other stuff. He works for me, but including, Matt's the guy that briefed President Trump on Fast and Furious. So, there's a lot of history here. And we're not through with Fast and Furious, by the way, either. So, but part of the reason I had Matt go ahead and start doing his own show with Warren over it, and my reason for pushing him, and Matt didn't really want to do it. He prefers to kind of stay behind the scenes. And I kind of told him, well, if I got to come out, you got to come out. So there you go. So he has a show over at PM, Patriot Party News, with Warren. Warren's had a show there for quite a long time. He started that network. And my logic was this: when the media center goes active, they will allow, you can't have every media person in the world show up at Guantanamo. They can't support that kind of activity. So they'll have a media pool of accepted people who can come and report on what's happening at Guantanamo. We want the world to know what's happening at Guantanamo, but it has to be fairly organized and regimented because you can't disrupt the actual activities of the tribunals as they get underway. And so, but you do want media there. So there will be a media pool of representative media present that then can share their reporting with other outlets, etc. In order to be part of that media operation, you will have to have some type of credentialing that allows you to, it's not just, hey, I'm an important person for the public, I want to buy my way in there. No, you're talking about something that's hypercritical to allow people to look over the shoulder, be present as justice is meted out. And so just like witnesses in any court case and having an open courtroom, we don't do lynchings, and we want no part of lynchings in America. This isn't some star chamber. We want the media to be able to be present, to report on what's going on, share that with the world, because the curative effect of justice being meted out is not served when that justice is hidden under a basket. Horrible crimes have been committed, not just against the American people, but out across the world in the name of the American people. And so we have to be able to separate and divide off from the rest of the population these monsters who have found their way to power, found their way to positions of influence, and taken the lifeblood, the energy of the American people through taxes and authorities like that, and literally led genocides across the world, who have interfered in the business of the people, such as the Russia gate stuff, where President Trump's first term was totally sidetracked, or near totally, with all of this Russia debacle. And then that as an excuse not to disclose foreign interference in our elections. These collusive operations interfered with the business of the American people and put America and the world not just at risk, but something beyond that, where many have died. Many lives have been forever damaged, health issues with the COVID, things like that. So at Guantanamo, over the last several years, and you have to put this in context, Congress, Nancy Pelosi, Biden, Obama, for almost 2 decades now, these Democrat leaders, and a handful of Republicans, by the way, have talked about shutting down Guantanamo Bay and Gitmo. And they've talked about that, they're going to move these prisons onto U.S. soil. Why is Guantanamo so important? If we bring people onto U.S. soil, then they're processed through the normal justice system, and trials take forever. Judges can play with this stuff. A normal, murder trial might take 10 years by the time you get through all the appeals like that. In a military justice system, it is much more curt. A lot of the mischief is curtailed. Much of the material in a military court setting may, for various reasons, have to be classified. So it's a very delicate but swift, comparatively, process. And in this case, not a judge, but a tribunal of judges supersedes or oversees all of the activity. A defendant has the right to counsel an attorney and the prosecutor. And then evidence is brought before the 3-judge panel. And a lot of the formalities are not present in a tribunal that you would see in a normal trial setting, in a domestic setting. Mm-hmm. By not bringing the persons onto physical U.S. soil, they don't get the same courtesies, if you will.
Different set of rules, right?
Different set of rules.
Yeah.
And so Guantanamo Bay is a military setting. We actually have other locations on the planet where we are set up to do tribunals also. Yeah. And imprison people. There's been a phenomenal amount of work done at least one of the other facilities. But, Guantanamo, the facility was upgraded back during President Trump's first term, in spite of the fact that Obama and everybody else had been rallying to have it shut down. During that time, Nancy Pelosi was calling for the shutdown of Guantanamo Bay, and she was going to supervise it, and it was going to be done. And I taunted her a number of times publicly. Hey, if you're so in charge of what's going on at Guantanamo and you have the right to shut it down, why don't you just announce we're all having a field day, bring the press and media down there, open the whole thing up, and then look, these are Marines, okay? You have a bunch of construction equipment down there. You got a few military pieces down there. Let the guys play around. Come on, let them have a day. Go ahead and challenge them. Let's just let them have all the equipment. Go out there. They can knock all the buildings, the fences, all the stuff down. They can just rip the place apart. And, later we'll have the bulldozers come in and just push it into a corner and burn it all up. It never happened because Nancy did not have authority and could not rally authority for all of her huffing and puffing. She could not blow Guantanamo down. It's still there. And as Trump famously said under his breath during the 2020 election cycle, Hillary railed against Guantanamo and all the money being spent and the build out happening there. And Trump said under his breath, I built it for you.
Well, I'm hearing you say
a couple of quick thoughts. Let me just give you a couple of thoughts. By the way, during the Trump first term period, he had the area around Guantanamo out in the harbor built out so that all of these FEMA ships, which are hospital ships, but are also prison ships, every last one of them in our system has an anchorage designed just for it, where essentially the ships can be brought in, anchored up, and literally sank in place. Why is that? Because it was set up so that it could survive a Category 6 hurricane. You could have, because you have a lot of storms in that region. Look at Puerto Rico, and every time you turn around, practically it's getting washed off the map again by another storm recently. And so Guantanamo is set up to take all of these prison ships out of the FEMA system and put them right there. You could put, depending on who you're talking to, something around 25,000 people just on the prison ships. In addition to that, the build out for prisoners at Guantanamo has been expanded significantly. But more importantly, the hospitals. They built a world-class hospital. And in some of the paperwork, it's designed around treating geriatric patients, elderly. Okay, they're planning on keeping people there for a very long time into their lives permanently. They spent $100 million on the hospital, and they spent another $100 million just fitting it out with all the contraptions and supplies and everything else. It's been in a state of readiness now for actually several years, but it's continuing to be upgraded. Most recently, they expanded the area where attorneys can review classified materials. See, a lot of the material is not ever going to be released to the public, at least within our lifetimes, because it's means and methods and sources and all sorts of things. But a person charged still has the right to defend himself. So the attorneys are going to be able to come in and review evidence against their client. They can't make copies of it, but they can write notes down. And then the evidence can be presented at trial to be observed. And portions of the trial will be open to the public, and portions of the trial will not be. And when I say to the public, to observers, media observers present there, you may have some persons such as congressional people who are allowed to be present also besides the media like that to observe that the proceedings are being done in a lawful way and that the defendants are getting an opportunity to actually present a defense. But when the tribunals are done in a military setting like this, justice can be quite swift and the opportunities for appeal are extremely limited. So this isn't playtime. This isn't the normal court system as we see it. And when they're done, they don't go to, U.S. federal holding facility or something like that. They're not going to the tennis court during breaks.
Yeah, well, I was under the impression that there was no chance of appeal at all unless they maybe, lessened the rules and made the rules a little bit more favorable to the person.
No. We have there's things to make sure that you have an opportunity to, have a proper defense. But again, it's very curtailed. There's not a lot of room for mischief here. And because we're not doing lynchings, we're doing justice. And there's going to be an awful lot of people processed through the facility. It'll be pretty epic. Plus the regular justice system, the administrative justice system through Justice Department like that will also be extremely busy. I don't know if I've mentioned it on your show, but in other shows I've mentioned over the last, I think it was 2 weeks ago, there's groups that monitor the indictments in the U.S. federal court system across the nation. Every federal court across the country has to keep public files on the number of open cases that has in the system cases that are sealed, cases that have been unsealed. Why would you seal the information in a case? Maybe it has to do with minor, or you're going after the mob or drug operation. And so you've got an indictment on someone involved, but it hasn't been served yet. And you have other ongoing investigations that are related. So you want to finish those investigations before the cat's out of the bag. In a normal period here in the country, go back 10, 15 years, and you would only see unserved, unopened federal indictments nationwide across all the courts. And it might be 20,000. And even that was considered a high number most of the time. Right now, and these are public numbers, you have to go court by court to come up with it. There's no national number that's within the federal system that I'm aware of. So researchers have been going in and maintaining an ongoing scorecard on where we're at within the sealed indictments, and that are for different things. Also, some of them are for pedophilia and things like that, where they don't articulate with precision exactly what the sealed indictment is over. Right now, at this point in time, you have just a handful short of 500,000 unsealed, yet to be unsealed, active federal indictments. Now, each indictment can hold an indictment against one person or up to 99 persons. So you have this almost unfathomable number, 500,000 sealed indictments waiting to be served the second, which, let's say that even though they can hold up to 99, those indictments hold an average of, let's say, 10 people. Well, that would be 5 million people under indictment. Let's say that some of the indictments in different districts across the country, and by the way, there's the 50 states plus 6 territory areas where you have indictments, also federal courts. And so out across that area, you have 5 million people that are under indictment. Let's say it's half of that because a bunch of people are on multiple indictments, just to be, give it whatever. Well, it'd still be 2.5 million people under indictment. I think personally, the total number under indictment is something around 5+ million, but they're sealed. You don't know it. You can't go in and discover it because it's a sealed indictment, not yet to be served. How is that going to be dealt with within the normal justice system? And so then you come into a whole bunch of things where this fogginess of how could you possibly do justice or service on that many indictments? Where are you going to place all the people? You don't have enough prison space in the normal sense. And what are these indictments for? I think those indictments, a large number of them are for illegal aliens. And, technically, people talk about, well, we got 30 million illegal aliens in the country, and it's probably closer to 50. Well, if you could have 1 to 99 people on a single indictment, now you're talking real numbers, because that could be 50 million people. So have we identified every last person that's not here as a citizen lawfully? One thing that's also here within the conversation that, I'll say it, I was briefed the other day that the situation has been upgraded, modified so that we can pick up and deport pretty quickly now in very short order. And this is the plan, 1,000 people a day, and deport them. And within just a couple of months, ramp that number up to several thousand people a day and deport them. That's important for any of your listeners that have friends, relatives, etc., that are here illegally. You need to tell them if they self-deport, leave the country, then they have the legal opportunity to go through the legal process and return to the United States, go back to school, get a green card, go to work, etc. But you got to come through the front door. If you are deported, you never, ever get the chance to come back in, especially under this administration or anything like it that follows.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to lose the opportunity to come back, even to vacation, even to see kids that are here legally or something, then you need to self-deport. Now, I have a person who for, 20 years did work for me, automotive work. And he came to me, year and a half ago, over a year and a half ago, just before Trump came in, but when he was president-elect. And he says, Juan, I got to talk to you. Could you come over? I got to talk to you. I didn't know what the crisis was. I get over there and he has 2 projects of mine that he's working on. I think I have to, I'm going to try to get this one done. That one, I can't get it done. And, so I got a problem. I'm thinking he's going to tell me he has cancer or something. I don't know. And he says, they're going to come after me and my family. Who, ICE. And he says, he's been here, pays taxes, has, his work, has purchased a house, everything. Has kids in the university system, had several kids here, and that he's afraid he's going to get deported. And I said, well, he asked me what he should do. I says, don't wait for him to come get you. He had property that he'd been buying and paying for down in Mexico for 2 decades. He's got a large farm down there. He goes down and checks on it. It's like 500 acres. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Gather up the kids that are here, that would also be illegals, go down there, live on the farm, and reapply to come back and get a good attorney. And he had money. I mean, it wasn't like he was poverty stricken. He'd been paying taxes the whole time. He did get benefits and like that early on for the kids, college, and all this other stuff. So over a period of about 2 months, he gathers all of his stuff together, sells his house, and moves back to Mexico. And it was like 21 people total. I mean, a whole caravan of cars and everything else. And visibly gets the hell out of Dodge. Early in the Trump administration, back in 2025, we communicate fairly regularly. In fact, he's going to do some work for me in Mexico on a vehicle that I have down there. Probably start on that in the next month or two. But the interesting thing is 2 of his kids have already gone through the process and come back to the U.S. through the front door and are in the university system. And they've applied for other stuff for other family members. He says it's the best thing he did. This weight of waiting to be picked up or identified, and him and his wife, be in some jail or somewhere, his kids be in jail. It's so lifted. And then to see that his kids have come back in, he has his own applications in and like that. He wants to come back here, but he actually wants to run his farm down there. He wants to be able to come and go. His kids don't want to live in Mexico. They want to live up here. They were, raised here, but you got to come through the front door. And it's dangerous in Mexico. But the other thing he said just the other day, he says, the atmosphere has changed so much. You have no idea how different it is here now than it was even just a year ago. The gangs, the murders, the other stuff have lightened considerably. Something is happening. And he attributes it all to President Trump. But with all that said, listen, we got stadiums, we got Walmarts, we got all sorts of places to put people that would get arrested, processed, and shipped out of the country. And I'm talking thousands a day, okay? That's a very serious number, and they're excruciatingly serious. The administration has a very dogmatic attitude in what must be done to get the country under control again. And so then I go to a slightly different direction. Many of your listeners, Mel, know that over the last several months, I've been very direct in saying that I do not believe personally that we're going to have the midterm elections on time, that President Trump has been setting up for a very long time, and the people around him, for a pause in the election and not hold it on time, because the elections system has not been modified or changed since the 2020 election. We still have voter rolls that have been, that are totally corrupted. 150 people voting from a vacant parking lot that doesn't even have a post office box at it. Dead people rising from the dead, 300 years dead, and they rise from the dead. But listen, Mel, you have a healing center there. How many dead people have you been able to bring back so far?
0.
Okay.
0.
Now I know there's some churches that are very effective. I know a couple. Curry Blake brought his son back from the dead. Okay. A lot of pretty bizarre stories out there. When Christ was risen from the dead 3 days after he was crucified and put in the grave, the scriptures say that when he was raised from the dead, and many others also. What? A lot of Christians never even heard that. Yeah, lots of people came back from the dead at the same time Christ did. Think about that. The turmoil that was in Jerusalem leading up to, 1 week, he's brought in, he's hailed as the, Messiah king, because they were under Roman occupation, who's going to lead some kind of a war to kick out the Romans, right? So he's brought in on a donkey that's never been sat on before. And they throw the palm leaves before him, the whole big thing, the whole city's reverberating. And by the way, see, this is Passover week. People come to the temple and to Jerusalem to celebrate. It's like, a big, huge, biggest holiday festival of the year. Within days, Christ has the Last Supper. And by the way, while he's on his way to Jerusalem, he's so clear with the apostles that he is on his way to Jerusalem and that he will be killed in the form of murder at that time by the Romans was crucifixion. So he's pretty clear with his disciples that he will be persecuted and die. He's so clear that Peter, who's the impetuous one, jumps up and says, "There's no way. I will never let it happen. I will die before I let them get you. I'm going to protect you to the last breath." He's not mincing any words here. They're going to kill me. He gets there. They have a Last Supper. And during that Last Supper, Christ washes the feet of the disciples. You're clean, but you're in a world full of filth, and it can mess you up. And you have to be the servant of each other. And so to demonstrate that, instead of a slave or somebody else washing the feet of the people been on this journey, he has a bucket brought in and he washes the feet of all 12 of the apostles to show them how they should operate and work together. Think about that within patriot circles. Oh, geez. They got knives and swords out ready to take out everybody in the next foxhole. And they got to wash the feet of their fellow patriots, friends and citizens. But then he also says, "This is my body broken for you." And he breaks the bread, blesses it and breaks it, and they all partake. And then he says, "Take this cup. This is my blood poured out for you." And they all drink, because without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. This is something that is tough to get past all the vegans and like that and the Old Testament history. But if you have a penalty for sin, which is death, separation from God is what death ultimately means. And the chaos, hell was prepared for Satan and all of his demons, Lucifer. And so was never created for humans. But if you want to side with that side, you'll go where they're going, and that's hell. But by the blood, then Christ dies in our place, substitution, and God sees that the price has been paid for the penalty of sin, which then in a legalistic sense allows us to then be sons of God, to be restored to the position of Adam before sin, and to walk and talk and be with God directly, not through some intermediate, some mediary, except Christ himself. And so then immediately after that Last Supper together, breaking bread together, and that communion, it's my body, this is my blood, they go into the garden, they're praying. Christ knows what's about to happen. The apostles fall asleep for sorrow because he's been very direct with them. They're going to come take me. They're very sorrowful. The scripture says precisely that they slept for sorrow. How many people in this audience have been so beat up, had some, horrific series of events, brokenhearted, who knows what? And you just got to lay down. You're mentally and physically exhausted. And that was the apostles in this tumultuous week. Christ actually comes out at Gethsemane in this garden and finds his apostles sleeping and says, "Couldn't you hold up for just one more hour and pray with me, knowing what's about to happen, what I've told you?" And they just were so tired and exhausted. Of course, after you eat a Thanksgiving dinner, you can be pretty tired also for different reasons, the insulin and like that. But then he comes out and he says, "Okay, rise up. They're coming to get me." And the Roman guards show up. Judas is there. It's dark out. The Roman guards don't necessarily know who Jesus is. And so Judas has this secret thing. He sold him out for 30 pieces of silver. And so the Roman guard knows who it is. He comes over to Judas, or Judas comes over to Christ and kisses him on the cheek. Where do you think that mafioso thing of getting kissed on the cheek, you're toast, you're gone, you're about to get killed, right? That's the kiss on the cheek that Judas kissed. Then the Romans know who to take, and they take him into custody. By the way, just one tiny aside, when they do that, one of the apostles gets a hold of a sword and literally is trying to fight the Roman guard and chops the ear off of one of the Roman guards, the centurions, chops his ear off. And they're holding everybody. They're going to do it. Christ says, "Hold on, everybody stop 1 second," goes over, grabs the guy's ear off the ground, picks it up, washes it off and sticks it back on his noggin and heals him, puts his ear back on in front of everybody. I mean, imagine that. But then the trial through the night, which was illegal in Roman times, you couldn't have a night trial. That's like a lynching. Okay, you had to do it in the open in the daylight. But through the night, they have a night trial, illegal for the Romans to do that. Pilate, whose wife had a dream, have nothing to do with this man. Pilate's wife is warning him, don't touch this. These guys are going to set you up, blah, blah, blah. And, in some of the writings of the era, it appears that Pilate's wife became a follower of Christ after this whole thing. And may have been beforehand, have heard him speaking and teaching like that. So he doesn't want to kill the guy, and he's trying to appease the crowds. You have to understand, Pilate was like a magistrate judge. He's not the guy. He's just there in that region. And the prior guys to him couldn't keep the Jews hemmed in and under control. So Herod, when these other guys couldn't manage it, said, you're fired, and very Trump-esque. And so here's Pilate. All right, you figure it out. If you don't get it sorted out, I'm going to fire you and put somebody else in there. So he's trying to maintain, some relative peace. And the Jews want this guy crucified, and they can't do it themselves. They want the Romans to do it on their behalf. So Pilate allowed Christ to be whipped 39 times, which is, in the way it's done, within one lash of death. If you whipped somebody 40 lashes, that was a whipping to the death. A gruesome way to go. You got the cross. You got other. One of the other Roman forms of execution that I've talked to audiences about before, probably talked to your audience about, was if you were found to have murdered somebody, killed them, justice was swift. The Roman tribunals, they would immediately try you. You'd be tried before sunset. There were witnesses testify against you. Whatever, you killed somebody. They would take you and physically shackle you face to face with your victim, arm to arm, leg to leg, neck to neck with your victim, and leave you that way until you died. Imagine being chained to the rotting corpse of your victim and the maggots and everything else until you yourself die. Can you imagine how gruesome that would be? And that was a Roman form of execution for murderers.
Well, I think if there was ever an appropriate time to bring back the gladiator games, my friend, this would be the time.
Well, part of the reason we're having this conversation is that's not who we are. It may be tauntingly pleasurable to think of all the people involved. Mengele is a choir boy compared to Fauci. Think about that. And supervising the genocide, knowing what was going on of millions, not just here in America, but across the world, okay? Part of a criminal cabal. And by the way, let me remind everybody, I've said this numerous times, and of course, some people have heard me saying this over the last several months, but COVID was not about the flu, the common cold, SARS-2 at all. SARS-1 was a influenza that was a test operation decades ago. The setup from a globalist standpoint to get us, through where we would agree to shots and things like that. This was SARS-2 that was weaponized against America, this weaponized flu. But when President Trump declared a COVID emergency for America, most everybody, 99.9999999% of the population saw that merely as this weaponized flu and protecting America and the world from, the effects of it when Trump declared this national emergency related to COVID. The reality is the attack with COVID was always about elections. Remember, COVID occurred in an election year leading up to the elections. Because of it, we all were schooled that we had to be able to have the 6-foot distance, the mask, and in fact, voting machines and the cleanliness of pushing a button with the voting machine, and you're going to transmit the virus on. Everything has to be cleaned, wiped down. You had to keep distance from the poll workers and all that. It just wasn't going to be safe or efficient to vote in person because society is shut down. So you needed to take the ballot from the postman, fill it out, put it in a drop box, put it in U.S. mail. By the way, the drop box has no chain of custody. It's totally illegal within the election system, but we were told that we had to do it. Allowed for millions and millions and millions of false votes to be put into the system. The COVID crisis was always a globalista plan to hijack elections, not just in America, but across the world, to put in leadership which wasn't the will of the people, put them in charge, and then to hijack, pirate control of the ship of state of countries all over the world. In fact, that events, the people that we have in U.S. custody now that participated in and were involved and are testifying right now before grand juries. We kept them outside the country safe for several years, waiting to get the right setup to bring them into the country after Trump became president visibly again. And they're here now testifying before grand juries. They say that they flipped and stole elections in 71 countries plus the United States, literally over half the population of the world. You have to slow down and think about what I'm telling you. Don't just gloss past this. Over half the population of planet Earth is being run by leaders who are not the will of the people, who were put into power through election frauds. That's what these guys are saying. 71 countries plus the United States.
That's why this is so huge.
It's global. It's so big. There's a lot of people. I had somebody that everybody in this audience would know the name of and called me up yesterday because they've been pretty critical of the president, pretty critical this election cycle, that
a lot of podcasters have turned against them.
Right. They don't understand what's going on. Well, and again, they don't understand what's going on.
They don't. I agree.
There's some brinksmanship going on here. The reality is, my team put together a 17-page proposed executive order for Trump a year and a half ago. He had it on his desk last March to clean up the process so you could have an honest, fair election here at 2026 for the midterms. The first top of the list was you had to clean up the voter rolls across the country. They broke up the proposed executive order into pieces, but it didn't negate that Trump could have signed the whole thing at some later point in time. But the 107th executive order of this term was signed by President Trump at 1:07 in the afternoon on March 25th of 2025. And it was about cleaning up the voter rolls at the county clerk level with the supervision of the Secretary of States and governors of every state and territory. And it gave them 180 days to do it. Trump signed that. 180 days later, how many counties had cleaned up their voter rolls? 0. So the executive order was inadequate to the task. Just like President Trump issued a federal pardon for Tina Peters, and then the state of Colorado, the governor and the prison system and the judges chose to defy it and not recognize it. So she remained in prison even after that was signed, which was a further demonstration of the defiance, literally a form of insurrection being conducted against federal authority at the state and local level. No federal pardon had actually been successfully defied ever in U.S. history. Okay, this was a first, which also shows that you don't have control of the state and local elections from the federal level. States get to name the time and place of election stuff and like that, but it does have to comply with certain federal constitutional rights for all citizens to have free and fair elections. It's your civil right, Mel, to have your vote counted fully and not canceled out by a false vote in California on the other side of the country that negates your vote. You have a right as a federal citizen and a state citizen that your voting is not being hijacked on the other side of the country by fraudsters, people that counterfeit votes like other people counterfeit money. But that's what's happening. And not cleaning up the voter rolls in Nevada, where one of my friends was involved in the investigation, find a vacant lot where there's 150 people supposedly living and voting from, where one of Trump's friends, somebody that knows Trump personally, Bonnie, there in Nevada, and I have her on tape talking about this. She was working as a registrar at the voting area where she lived and the same area where she grew up. And so a guy comes in. I mean, think of the odds, the chances. A guy comes in, comes up to her. He's like a 6'4" black guy. She's a little redhead, 5'3" or 4", in her 70s. And he hands her his ID and is going to vote and shows the address, wants to have the ballot so he can go vote. The reason the fact that he's black is important is because the name he hands her is her father's name and date of birth. And the address that he wants to show as being his personal address is the address she grew up at.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Imagine the chances.
Yeah.
So she's cool as a cube.
Yeah, before I
Okay,
forget,
great.
Juanito,
Yeah.
I've been
Okay.
flashing your Storm Summit. I love how you have the bracelets. The arrests are coming. I love the honest elections, and I love the honest money, which the Ron Paul used to call sound money, right?
Yep.
And so it's an incredible theme. You got an incredible lineup. You know, listen, the last time I was at your event, by the way, I couldn't go 10, 12 feet without somebody recognizing me. We really went out and advertised the hell out of you with our team on all of the Telegram groups, etc. I see you got Roseanne Barr supposed to be there in person this time. I know I met Tina Peters there, Eduardo Bolsonaro, which I'm trying to get a hold of his bodyguards to see if I get an interview with him. James O'Keefe, unbelievable. He's like my all-time
You don't
favorite
have to
of
go to
all
the
times.
bodyguards. I mean, we talk. I've got to sell all of you.
Yeah, if you could put in a good word for me and say, "Hey, if Mel Carmine contacts you and he wants an interview, give
Hey,
it
I
to him.
got a
He's good
friend.
at."
Do
You know, I
him a
got a good
favor, will
friend.
you? Just come on, man.
Exactly. So you got some of
Eddie,
my
come on,
favorites.
Eddie.
Yeah, you got some of my favorites, and my good friend Trennis Evans, which I admire tremendously, and Mr. Tyler, and you just got the who's who of the who's who of the who's who here.
Oh no, hey, you haven't even got Peter Tickton's going to be there. President Trump's friend and attorney, James O'Keefe.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, has he got some stuff to share? Greg Stenstrom, the pro se genius, okay? And he and I had a couple of calls over the last couple of days that were like 4 and 5 hours on cases that are actively being worked right now, formulating some of the strategies. Well, you see what happens there. You got Professor Clements. Oh
yes,
my gosh, how many fantastic,
yes,
unbelievable presentations has he been doing? Talk about a
yes,
superstar, a power player. My gosh, the
yeah,
bench is
yeah.
just over the top. And then Roseanne, she's on deck to premiere the first 2 episodes of her new TV series, and they're just hysterical. Matt and I, we got to see the trailer that is there so far, and so
Nice.
every time we call, we have a couple of lines from the trailer that we use in communicating. It's just funnier than I'll get out. And Randy Quaid plays Roseanne's boyfriend in the TV series. Well,
Nice.
his character is based on me,
Yeah, interesting.
so he looks like me in
But
the thing. It's very funny.
there was a video recently, and Donald Trump mentioned you 107. I forget the video. Somebody sent it to me. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
more than one person, because I've interviewed you a bunch of times, not nearly as much as Nino, but a bunch of times. But the reality is that he mentioned 107, and I knew he was talking specifically about you. I got to dig up that video and send it to you. I'm sure maybe
Yeah,
you probably
the
got it
bat
too.
the bat signal went out. Yeah. So let me just say this: we have a lot of fun with a lot of things. At this exact moment, it's all hands on deck.
Right,
There's
right.
so many amazing people that are so much more intricately involved in helping the public understand this moment, very close to and some at the periphery of the president's circle of power and influence, etc. But it's all hands on deck. And there is no, by the way, this is a really important point. We're talking about my chief of staff, Matt, and other people. This is a team effort. When Christ was washing the feet of the apostles, he was showing them, and you have to think about this coming to Jerusalem. At one point, the mother of James and John approached Christ, realizing he was coming to Jerusalem and many, many, many people around him, this whole entourage. I mean, he's like a rock star. And the crowd varies in size from the 12 apostles and 60, 80, 100 hangers on to hundreds. And even this roving band is headed to Jerusalem for the Passover festival, which is a big deal. Everybody comes, okay? And to make sacrifices and to get right with God and all that. The temple's biggest season of the year to bring in money because people bring their offerings, and the money changers look at, well, that dove's not quite pure enough here. My brother-in-law's got a dove. He could trade you that dove for this other dove. And then the guy makes the trade, puts some bleach on the spot in the wing, and turns around and sells it again. Approved, it's halal, it's kosher, okay,
Yeah.
for sacrifice. But they all know, they believe that Christ is coming. In fact, one of the things that's not understood about Judas, the other apostles came from the area around the fishing villages and like that. But Judas came from an area to the southeast where it'd be like northern Idaho with the militias, or some parts of Montana or Mississippi where these militias are strong, eastern Arkansas, or I should say western Arkansas, where these militias are strong, right? Well, that's where Judas came from. And Judas was of the group that believed that the Messiah was coming in as a conquering Messiah. They'd read the scriptures, they understood the scriptures, showed the Messiah coming back, conquering the enemies and taking power over the whole world and putting all their enemies in chains and like that. And so they were very militant. And Judas was part of that kind of family sect area. When they were coming to Jerusalem, the Judas part of the group, and this is some of the arguments of the apostles as they're coming, believes that Christ is coming in as a conquering king and that God himself is going to help this miracle worker and place him on a throne, and they're going to overthrow Roman rule there in the region. And so they're all ready. And so the mother of James and John comes to Jesus and says, in your new kingdom, place my sons to your right and left hand, okay? Because they're your apostles, and give them favor. Okay, mom's trying to help the kids out. Please, please, Master Rabbi, put them in this, high, lofty position. She's making the case for them because they're such good sons, okay? Help them out. Godfather, Godfather. And Christ says, that's not up to me. That's the Father coming in as. He's coming in as the sacrificial lamb to die in their place. They're trying to get their minds around what he's telling them. They all know him, but they still can't quite envision what's about to happen. We're in right now. People are trying to get their minds around what's about to happen. And they've all kind of a different zone. Is it revenge? Is it go string them all up? Is it military and sandbags like you see in so many countries around the world? What's this moment ahead look like? Trump going to forward with the elections and the fraud that's already set up in place. You can't fix this election, Mel, that's coming. It's already fixed. What do you mean it's already fixed? Of course we fix the election. If we get the same fact right now, if we go get control of these governors, and if he tells them you got to do it, he can bring in the military. We have the election on time, and we're going to get a fair election. No, you're not. You could get, for in the history of planet Earth right now on November 3rd, you could have no foreign votes, no multiple votes by anybody. We'll bring out every eligible voter to vote this time. Not just a percentage. Every person that's authorized to vote shows up and votes, and it's an honest vote. You know what? It's still a crooked election. What? No way. Yeah, it's still a crooked election. Why is that? Because you've already got people on the ballot that got there through election fraud because you up the voter rolls before the primaries. And a lot of candidates got aced out because of fraud in the primaries. So all you'd be doing is a fraudulent election. You can't fix the 2026 election. It's already fixed. Do you understand?
I do. Hey, listen,
why
on your event,
right now is so important.
Yeah, I want to get back to your event. You're having it on the 10th. Any reason you're choosing Charlie Kirk's anniversary? I know the 9th is my birthday, by the way, when I released Dear Mr. President, the movie about, censorship, which didn't get anywhere because we got overshadowed by Charlie Kirk's event. You're having a multi-day event from the 10th to the 13th, but I see that the price tag changes on starting August 10th, right? Okay, I just realized, I guess you extended it because it was supposed to just change on the 1st of this month, August.
Out a little bit here. Let me help you out a little bit here. First off, we blocked out those dates just prior to what happened with Charlie Kirk. I had a private meeting out in DC at that time period, and we had decided event dates that I wanted to block out which you got to do it a long time in advance. So I think just almost a week before Charlie was killed, we had chosen that date plus the June date and a February date that we did earlier this year for the Bond Summit, which was private. I didn't invite the public to that. That was in late February. I only invited it ended up
I was
being
there.
125 people. Yeah. And which was a great event, right? I covered all the expenses and had everybody out there. That was the basis for knowing that we could do a larger event, which was the June event. And then this event, we had blocked out the dates so that we wouldn't lose the opportunity. And I wanted to be over the 9/11 period. And so we looked at the dates and chose the September 10th then. And, by the way, just a very aside thing, at that private event there in DC, I had requests several times, different people that wanted me to be at the event where Charlie Kirk was assassinated.
Well,
Including even the day before. Imagine if I had accepted those. I had obviously no knowledge of anything like this. I just was deep in it there in DC and didn't feel that I could leave.
Yeah.
Even though there was a hard push, please come on, join us, come out here. Because early on in Turning Point's history, before most people in this audience even knew there was such an organization, I had given quite a bit of money to Turning Point through other operations in the figures. And it was so critical, so beautiful, aimed at young people, young adults, get them involved in understanding the age, civics, civil rights. And I just thought it was an important mission. And at a certain point, about 2 years before Charlie I was very, harsh line in the sand. And when I was asked if I would give some more, I said no, because there were certain things that were being pushed within the organization, especially concerning voting and things like that were absolutely 1,000% in step. And they were being veered off course as far as I was concerned. I did talk to several key people. I made a specific to have a private meeting with the individuals to explain why what they were pushing and what was being foisted on them by people who'd been grafted into the organization, why it was completely out and everything. And, Charlie was certainly directly aware that, he had these monstrous donors coming in by then. When I gave what I gave, that was, as big in those infantile days, but they had got bigger donations and had gone to another level completely. I was, significant, but in a, down in low percentages by then. But I still felt that, especially because of that early history, that I at least had some weight or say in what should be reconsidered. And if you look at the last week, month or two, and part of the reason I was being asked so directly, please come out here, is because he was pushing that card. And I had somebody that tied a word with you about what was going on and what might be a proper route to go forward. Well, I don't know. It's all in the history books now.
Yeah. Well, if you had
on, and he was starting to get to the point where we wanted to address that.
Yeah.
And by the way, let me just add this one thing. I'm glad I didn't go out there. Wouldn't have changed anything. I'd have been in the audience, a few feet from him probably. And who knows all the bullshit that would be being said right now. Because I was there, there was some setup that occurred there.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened with Charlie Kirk. The only thing I will tell you is this. Everything you've been told thus far is not what happened. So are we still fleshing that out, trying to get to the bottom line there? I do think some of the more recent, back to the other subject, these people in military location in the days out prior to the actual assassination is very troubling. And those details that are coming out now are going to be hard ones to get past. There was a broader conspiracy, in my opinion, that it just can't be, in my opinion. So we'll have to watch and see how this continues to develop. I will say that the people that invited me, as far as I'm concerned, each one of them was totally innocent in that they wanted me there to maybe have a private meeting and raise what was going on inside the organization
Sure.
in this diversion, how they spoke about the elections, etc. Never happened at this point directly with him, but that would have been the conversation I would have had. And it wouldn't have been anybody. It's not my style. I'm not the internet police. I had a conversation that mimicked what I had had privately with other people around him, very, very, very close to him, a year and a half earlier. Put an end to this. You cannot do this. You can't be associated with that because you're going to look bad in the future. Even your constituents within the students inside of the organization. Ultimately, when certain truths come out, you're going to look to have been on the wrong side of history. You need to rethink that. And whoever's telling you to go this way is not your friend. They may be well intentioned, but not your friend. And
Well, I'll tell you what. If you would have had the event one day earlier, you'd be stuck on stage singing "Happy Birthday" to Mel Carmine. Happy birthday, Mel Carmine. 2020 isn't over yet.
Well, Tina Peters' birthday is 9/11.
Oh, interesting. So yeah, that's right. Her birthday is the same as mine.
And she'll be there. Yeah.
Almost the same as mine. 9/11, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually 9/11 of 1965, okay? Tina a lot younger than she is, okay?
Oh yeah.
So we'll allow her. Yeah, it's like 5 or something.
Well, I think I look a little younger than I'm going to be 63 when I get to Vegas. I'm sort of really contemplating on coming because you said this is going to be the last one in a long time, and I don't want to. There's so many personalities that I want to meet that I would be starstruck.
Well, this is somebody said it the other day. Sorry, I was talking over you.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Somebody was saying the other day, I was calling it the stock Patriots. I don't know that I want that exact, but I got it. And, it's the last major event of the White House. Some of the people there have made it clear, well, it looks like you're the last major event before the midterms. And so, yeah, that might be. I mean, it's fun. There certainly is bigger events or tries to be bigger events. They had a big one up in one of the states that was supposed to be 100,000 people. And I think a couple thousand showed up in the context of another broader event. It's a tough moment. The event that you just attended there in June, we weren't absolutely positive we were going to go forward with the event here September 10th to 13th. The reason I was a little bit hesitant because I had the June one and the September one, and I was debating, well, will we let the date go and just pay the penalty for having blocked out the dates and not gone forward? And because, it's expensive, it's not the cost that which was very low on the fraud fighters and probably too low. It had to pull a lot out of my pocket. But, people have to fly. They have, families and vacations and all sorts of other things. A lot of people that got to go to the fraud fighters. Look, got to see a world premiere of Jim Caviezel's new movie, The Public.
Amazing.
I mean, that was quite a deal. This one, a lot of people, I don't want people spending money they don't have. Okay, but it's a big country. I mean, we're only going to have less than 1,000 there, but hotels and travel and like that. I get that for people. So we'll have a lot of people that are duplicate, but we also have a lot of people that didn't go to the previous event. That this is the chance to kind of have that gathering before we come to whatever happens here at the midterms. Yeah. And the nice thing about these events, it's like a Trump rally.
Yeah.
What's the best part of a Trump rally? Just hanging out with other like-minded people.
Absolutely.
You got to be there 5, 6, 7 hours before he gets there. So you're just hanging out, having fun. It's a tailgate party, whatever. And then the president gets to speak. You hang out, yuck it up a bit, and get to go home. And you're all happy warriors.
Well, the fact that you were able to talk to the Ahern people, and they're going to move the bar out of the way. They're going to bring in extra sound and more chairs. And I think you're going to blow the roof off of this thing, the walls out of the water. I think you're going to be a sold-out event. I think it's going to be well over probably 12. I think there was over 1,000 people at the last one. It looked at least 800 to 1,000 for sure. I think this one probably north of 1,300 people.
Well, we had about 8. Yeah, we had about 850, I think, was what we arrived on. But of course, the facility. Well, let me just ask you this, because I had it set up not with theater seating, but with the table. You can sit down with the meal and have a place to sit. You don't have to have it on your lap or something like that. And we could have put more people in there brought the price down a little bit potentially, although, I don't know if I could have done that, but, because we provided all the meals like that, you have no idea. But I didn't want something that was so crowded that you couldn't just relax and enjoy yourself, or a setting where you couldn't enjoy other people. So, did you feel overcrowded at the last event?
No,
With the way it was set up?
no,
Okay.
no.
So now think about this. We will have about the same amount of people, but now they're taking out that bar that was at the center that has been there since Mr. Ahern bought the hotel about 10 years ago. They've said they were going to pull it out forever, and didn't get it done because it's a big undertaking, a lot bigger than most people realize. And because there's into the foundation concrete stuff, and there's all sorts of reinforcement stuff, and all that has to be done. So Mr. Ahern and I walked through the facility a couple of times over the last couple months, and he promised to have it taken out. Well, here in just a few days, they begin a 10-day period where that area of the hotel is closed off. They're pulling out that whole stage. They have no events there while they're doing this. They're pulling that whole bar area out. They've already moved the LED big screen TV system that I purchased from where you saw it to the opposite side on the northeastern wall area. And so now there's not a bad seat in the house. You have way more room, and we're going to have about the same amount of people. So it's going to be even more relaxed, more open. I think it's going to be an amazing thing. And then it's the first time with the Ahern, with their new configuration that'll be in place. Yeah. After they get the bar area torn out, then we're going to come in and do a couple of walkthroughs to do the sound. And then it was Ahern audiovisual people who handled the sound. We handled the screen itself, which was fantastic. It's not like a projection screen where you can get bad angles with an LED screen. And this is not just any LED screen. This is a world-class system, way higher resolution than what you get most of the time. This is the latest technology, because I was trying to do a service to the producers, directors with Jim's movie. Okay. I mean, was it a good picture that you saw on the screen?
Oh yeah. It was great. I think your first one wasn't too bad. I think you're right on the sound. It could have used a little boost, which you addressed it. I'm like, okay, Juanito's definitely on his feet. He's got a little New York pep in his step, which is always good.
We didn't have control over the sound. In fact, when we tried to, some of the AV people were a bit snooty because that's their job and like that. So what we've worked out, and of course, to set sound before you have people there with all their clothes absorbing and reflectiveness on, we've worked out that we'll handle the sound this time, and we're going to do a walkthrough. And if I have to buy more stuff or rent stuff,
much better,
we'll nail the sound a little bit better. We kind of know what the issues were. And
yeah, you want to be in control. That's a smart move.
Yeah, so I think we'll have that much better, and the movie people will have some people there at the walkthrough to make sure we nail it. But the one thing is, for a world premiere of a movie, that we did some research, that's never happened that way before. They always do it in theater settings. To do it in a setting like we did there for a major movie premiere is really unheard of. And so, and we're going to show Dark Horse again. It's only been shown to a handful of people. In the interim, I had about 100 people out in Washington, D.C. at a private event that I did a month ago, 14 of Peters, and with the release. And of course, you got to go see the president and stuff like that. We had been able to make that all work out.
Yeah.
And so we showed it there. Other than maybe a couple dozen people, nobody else has seen the movie except for the people that were there at the Fraud Fighter Summit. And now the people at the Storm Summit will see it again. It's a great movie. I mean, it was, that alone, is worth the trip. But we actually have 3 premieres that we will be doing at the event, and maybe a 4th, by the way. All world-class world premieres. So the people that get to come out there are going to get some real treats, including the Roseanne stuff.
Yeah. Well, we'll get our administrators that run our Telegram groups, who also are part of other Telegram groups, to get it out there for you. We'll make sure that typically these things start to sell out like the last 3-4 weeks. So you're at that cusp right now where the ticket sales are going to start to speed up. And you've met a lot of our people.
Just so we're half sold out.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And
to be at this level now, this early on, lets you know how interested people are. The Ahern sold out for hotel rooms, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
we had to do an adjustment agreement to get more rooms and more time over at the Sahara. So I think that will sell out shortly also. And that's, they've remodeled it. It's actually a pretty nice place. Got some nice restaurants, but we're already feeding the food for most of it, except 2 dinners during this time. People will be free to go wherever and give a little bit of a break because we're giving a wider break. Remember, this event is another day longer than the fraud fighters.
Correct.
So that was a 2-day event. This is a 3-day event because I don't want the speakers to be overrushed. They have critical information. It's not like a TED Talk and you get 20 minutes, you don't
Yeah.
get it bad. I'm trying to make sure because these are serious conversations that require a little bit more time to develop subject matter, make the presentation, etc.
Yeah.
And somewhere when you get out there, we'll squeeze you in for a few minutes. I'll find a place to get you in there to present what you have with your stuff also. So
yeah, I'd like to do the long version of the documentary trailer, which is about 4 minutes and 12 seconds. And then if you can get me on stage for another 4 minutes and 12 seconds and ask me a couple of silly questions, I'll give you a couple of silly answers. But
well,
yeah,
I mean, actually, your subject matter in your trailer is pretty serious stuff. So
it is.
we kind of say that's tongue in cheek, but I
Yes.
think it's an important thing. So we'll work it through. I mean, I will tell you this: I've got several world-class speakers that could do a whole day, and we're having to juggle to keep it pretty tight and get everybody in there that we want to get in there. We had so many people that I've had to tell really close friends, I just don't have room because I want to stay on point. You know, the core of the theme, of course, being over 9/11, and I've told other audiences this, but I'll mention it to your audience. In the 25 years since 9/11, how long has it been since you saw anybody bring out anything new and serious and important about 9/11? Nobody talks about it.
Right.
You have to understand that the 2020 election theft, which President Trump, you don't know it's a theft. What are you talking about? President Trump did an address to the nation, an address to the whole world. You think he was full of shit when he told the world that China interfered with our election in 2020 and flipped it and stole it? You think he's just talking out his ass?
Nope,
And
absolutely not.
if I then tell you it would be impossible to steal the 2020 election, except that you had 9/11, you could not have had 2020 stolen by China. We are going to release stuff about 9/11 that has never been heard in the world before outside of extremely tight circles. I've got the Able to Ager team, several of the players, Tony Schaefer, going to be there speaking.
Wow.
Kurt Weldon, who was in line to be head of the Armed Services Committee in the House, considered to be one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful position within Congress. And what they did to stop him because of his stance on 9/11.
Wow.
And the dirty tricks they did. You're going to hear a presentation that's unbelievable. So when I say this is a world-class event, and even the White House is watching anxiously, that's not an overstatement. Steve Bannon, he's going to be there in person.
Correct. He's
had my chief of staff on several times. You know, Steve Bannon came out of the woodwork and pushed super hard on Sound of Freedom and got people to come and attend the movie, see the movie that hadn't darkened theater seats in decades. People came out and went. Steve is a powerhouse and did amazing work to help bring this subject matter of the pedophile attacks on children around the world to a light with Sound of Freedom. And of course, now Dark Horse, Jim Caviezel's next major
movie.
Yeah.
Amazing movie.
And so Steve's going to be there. Roseanne Barr, she doesn't do that much stuff publicly. It's very hard. It's not convenient, fun to travel, especially when you're a named person. It's a son of a gun.
Yeah.
That's why we had to get a private jet to move Tina around, especially right after she got out of prison, to come to Vegas and then go out to meet the president. These are,
something tells me, Juanito, that you had a lot to do with her meeting with Donald Trump. I just can picture you just walking her into Donald Trump's Oval Office. They had their picture op. They probably talked for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and you're completely out of the scene because you don't want to be, you're not out in you're in the limelight, but you're not in the limelight. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't want to overstate stuff. I mean, I did drop her off at the White House, but and it was within our team that the communications occurred to make that possible and set a date and a time. But, a lot of people were involved in getting that sorted out and set up. We just made the request and people responded. You know, she's an important player at this moment in history, in this pivot moment. But then there's a lot of other important players too. So just because there's a moment at the forefront, we have a lot of people who have played a big role in getting us to this moment in time. By the way, you know, there's players that are gone now, but they played their part, you know. Robert David Steele. I did multiple interviews with Robert. And early on, there was this, you know, push within certain of the Patriot community because Robert was a CIA officer and a Marine who became a CIA officer. And I had all sorts of, don't be around him. You're gonna, you know, I'm like,
hey,
yeah,
I suspect that goes
on.
on about Mel Carmine too. Don't talk to him. Don't go on his show.
Yeah. Well, because everybody's, you know, we have, you know, everybody's got kind of their stick and all that. And so, no. Robert and I had dinner together. Every time I do a show with Robert, by the way, we always started the show right off the bat. And he would say, not RFK Jr., you know, not, or JFK Jr., you know, we would start the show that way.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. You know, I've never said anything like that. And so we had a great rapport because we could talk maybe at a little different level. And I used to taunt him. I even did it publicly a number of times. You know, file clerk, you know, CIA officers are really just file clerks as far as I'm concerned. The real work is done by contractors. An agent is not an officer, just so everybody knows. And the people that go out and, you know, actually get the intel and then hide it under the bridge, and the CIA officer gathers the intel, puts it in some file location. I used to tease him about that. There's very few people within those operations that become directly operational. They're managing other people that are doing the other work. But anyway, we had great conversations, a lot of fun. Sure. He did a national tour. He had on the buses, you know, he had 3 buses, and he had the rap put on the buses, one of which was Kid by the Side of the Road.
Right.
And like that. So a great friend. The Call was also on one of the buses from the poster from the movie that Jen and I did. And coming up to and concerning January 6th, which was released on January 7th, by the way, 107 Day. Can you imagine that? Did a whole movie leading up to January 6th. It took a month and a half to make the movie on the road, less than a month and a half, and then released it in its final version before midnight on 107. And to the world, showed everything, the beating down the glass by the contractors that were there, you know, federal contractors trying to besmirch the people gathered there that day. And we nailed it. There's nothing in the movie that I would change today, honestly. It stands exactly as it is.
Yeah. Juanito, I don't know how much more time do you have, but I'd like to switch gears real quick and speak to you about Iran. Where do you see that going? I mean, is this peace deal a real one? Because we had a lot of false starts and then it didn't happen. Cuba, I think, is going to implode on its own. It's going to be like, you know, and we're in there and we'll fix things. Maybe we should have Marco Rubio run for president of Cuba. He's Cuban anyway. And maybe if he could fix Cuba and prove himself there, then we can make him run the United States. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, we could get some good Cubans out of this. You know, I used to go down to the Cuban ambassador's residence in Panama at various times. And every time I'd show up, he'd give me a box of Cuban cigars, a cigar box. So I probably had, but I'm not a cigar smoker.
Yeah.
Really.
Let's talk also about China and Taiwan. That's very important. I know that China's not going to walk away with this thing without taking Taiwan. So that's not even started.
They're not getting Taiwan. They're not.
Oh, that's interesting because a lot of people are saying that would be at odds with you. So let's talk about that. Let's start there. China, Taiwan.
You think Trump's going to let China have Taiwan? We're going to give it away in this chess game. Are you serious?
Too many important minerals there?
Has nothing to do with the minerals. It's the people. We're not going to abandon the people of Taiwan. Okay. They're not a piece that we're willing to give away. We're not letting China get away with it. In fact, I'll say this.
Interesting.
Within the docket of things we intend to do, because we're going after China. Remember, Trump specifically, precisely named China as having orchestrated the theft of the 2020 election against the American people and 71 other countries, including South Korea, where the president sits in prison right now, including Brazil, where the president sits in jail right now. And we're going to stand by and let him have that? Are you absolutely kidding?
Well, you make a valid
You have
point.
any concept of who President Trump is, who he is as a person, and
Right.
what he's doing? He's painting his masterpiece. Don't you see that?
Yeah.
He is setting it up. When you paint a masterpiece,
The Rembrandt.
you start with the background. Is it morning, night? Is it a blue sky? Is it a dark sky? Is it a room? Then you start filling it in. Are there clouds? What types of reflections are on those clouds? What's in the foreground? Is it mountains? Is it a stream? Is it a farmhouse? Is it a castle? The trees, are there animals present? Is a person present? You start to build this whole thing out. This tapestry that President Trump and the people behind him, remember, President Trump was invited to run a detail that you cannot skip past lightly. So many people, they're focused, they're, shiny, 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 shiny. And they're just diverted, all over the place. Okay. And they miss the bigger picture. President Trump was invited to run. Who invited him? He's told you 200 generals. Well, we have 800 plus generals and a bunch of admirals, flag officers in our military command structure. Okay, well, a percentage of them, 20, 25%, have been working legally, I might add, behind the scenes to get to this end. In order to move forward, had to have the position of the commander-in-chief, president, secured in order to legally proceed forward in taking back things that have been stolen from America right there in plain sight. Treasonous, traitorous, treacherous activities occurring both within our government, inside the United States system, politically, militarily, business-wise, etc., and external. This globalist attack on freedom. And so President Trump was invited to run. Who invited him? What have they been doing leading up to this moment, painting the picture, and then President Trump steps onto the stage, Patton-esque, like the movie Patton, and helps to formalize, to get people in the right mindset, to lay out the terms of the engagement ahead. We're now at that point where all the pieces are in place. And in this masterpiece, this Nessun moment, all of the enemies are going to be captured, vanquished, imprisoned. The plots, the frauds against the people, not just of America, but of the world, in the name of America, in many cases, are about to be brought to some type of justice, visibly to the whole world, not in some backwater, not with a bushel over it to hide the light of truth and bring freedom mentally into the world again. You see, one of the things you did with one of your presentations was go after the silencing of our voices through the internet, the choking down of what we could say and how we could say it, and the delisting of people across the internet who said things that went against the globalist cartels running the world or attempting to, and wanting to bring freedom back in our conversation, freedom of thought. And that's what this moment is all about. President Trump is on the verge of this Nessun Dorma moment, the vanquishing of all those entities, personalities who have been enslaving not just America, but people across the world. And in this moment, part of that is stopping election frauds across the world to have honest elections. You cannot proceed up November 3rd when it's already fixed, and nothing you can fix the fix that's already in play, except a full stop, a pause.
Well,
and come back at it again.
Yeah, the Nessun Dorma.
It will be conducted lawfully. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Nessun Dorma fits right in because they didn't disenfranchise just, 320 million Americans who voted. They disenfranchised 71 countries that are equally as important as the United States. Those people feel just as robbed. So hopefully we don't get a copyright strike, but I know you like Pavarotti as much as I like Pavarotti. So let's play it.
Yeah, Pavarotti. Good.
Nessun Dorma in Italians means don't go to sleep, motherfucker, because someone's going to come to get you. This thing ain't over yet. Not even close.
Well, our enemies don't get a chance to sleep. Of course, the famous where that song is played at the end as the bad guys are taken out is Sum of All Fears.
Right.
We we do have a live nuclear
How many
threat.
times can you listen to that song to get off track and get sick of it? I mean, that's like listening to Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. It never gets old. 5 billion years, 5 trillion years from now, you listen to these songs and they're still as amazing as they were the day that they were produced.
Well, at Mar-a-Lago, as you're around the property, there's music and like that. Nessun Dorma plays pretty regularly.
Oh, I'm sure.
Every time I want to sing with it. That's one of the things, the aria is that it's something that it gets and you want to sing along with it.
Yeah.
And it's inspirational. I will say this, just because you mentioned it, they're
Stairway to Heaven.
amazing musical
Yes.
piece. Okay. It's stunning. But remember,
You're breaking up.
it is
Come back again.
Lucifer. Stairway to Heaven is really a cult piece. The people involved in creating that, the singer himself. This is about the feminine form of Satan. He presents as both male and female. You have this imagery. People want to be, such as Michael Obama doesn't want to go through the operation.
Of course not.
Michael's a transgender. He wants to be both sexes. He wants to be male and female because Satan looks both male and female, not one or the other. In the feminine, this is about the goddess ascending the stairs of heaven where Lucifer was cast out. That's what the song is about. So there's amazing pieces, but I don't want to even let them get in and by the way, from a scriptural standpoint, my presentation at the summit is architects of illusion. Mm-hmm. These architects of illusion, we'll be talking about 9/11 and other things and how we've gotten where we're at societally through all these various math illusions. And I have something I'm going to present there. I think that people are going to be, what? You're talking about that here?
Yeah.
But I bet you most people here haven't even considered almost lifetime. But anyway, the scripture says that we're directed, it's not even should not, you shall not have the name of other gods. You shouldn't even say the names of these other purported gods on your lips. But you know what? Societally, we get conned and tricked as a people. We're supposed to be a Christian nation. And so you have all sorts of gods and goddesses within the names of companies and corporations and their imagery, and you're waterlogged with it. You're baptized in it. You're total immersion, okay, as a society over and over and over. How many people within the Christian community who are true believers, love God, everything else, but 5, 10, 30 times a day say the name of a certain coffee company, which is the name of a goddess. And I'm going to go there. I'm going to get this. I've got the cup. I've even been guilty of that. And it struck me a while back. And I was, oh my gosh, God doesn't even want us to have that name. But we're so permeated as a society with all these different things that give these entities, spirits, a toehold, clawhold into our existence, our being, our talk, that we don't even realize it. And that's part of the illusions that the devil himself, Lucifer, wants us to be caught up in. So we have to guard our thoughts, guard our talk, and move these things out of our life and existence as a people, as a society. And I think we have to be more proactive maybe than we've been. I think that's this moment that we're coming into, that if we want divine protection from the monsters that would do a 9/11, a Maui fire, burn up the coast of California, fires that are happening right now, some of which are very questionable going on in the Northwest. Do you want to kick those demons, those enemies out? Are you entertaining demons in your thoughts and in your conversation, in your daily life? Well, then why would they leave? You've allowed them to be there. So it's stuff that we have to think about as a people, that you do it at an individual level. It's a personal choice. So, yeah.
Brother, it's been a great podcast. I love having you on. I know you're busy running around the world. We're all running around like chickens without a head. We're all waking up every morning fighting the New World Order. That's what we choose to do because we realize that the car has gone off the rails. And now it's time to pay attention and bring the cart back on the rails. And it takes not just Donald Trump. It takes people like you, me, Nino Rodriguez, Michael Jaco, and all the people that have big balls to step up to the plate and do what they got to do. There's no easy way out now. The only way is to get your knuckles a little bloody, and the chips are going to fall where they're going to fall. But don't count me out in Vegas. I might be there.
Well, be there, be square. I'm just telling you, it's going to be a blast and a lot of fun stuff happening there. It's a great opportunity to hang out. The speakers, unlike a lot of the other stuff where they just go hide in a green room, you don't get to see them. They're there to listen to the other presenters just as much. So they're right there in the audience. You get a chance to break bread, sit, talk together. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And very relaxed kind of an environment. So many people wanted to talk to myself or Jennifer at the last event, but when you're running something, there's always stuff that you have to be on top of. And
just
so
like when you came to mine, remember?
Yeah, it's so I'm glad to do that, but it is a little bit limited. Although I was there early, I stayed, days and days afterwards because I had lots of conversations we had to do. The one thing is the hotels. We have discounts at the hotels there in the area that are available on the unauthorized.one is our website for unauthorized, the organization. And then in the opening screen, you'll see events. And then when you pull up the storm event, there's hotels there, and you can, through the site, make reservations, hotels at a discount. Those are filling up. The Ahern's totally sold out. We expanded and lengthened the time for making reservations over at the Sahara and the Stratosphere, which is, by the way, you're going to be at the event the whole time. Stratosphere is a little bit less expensive of a hotel, still a nice accommodations, but they're only 800 feet walking 3 football fields away. And the Sahara is kitty corner to the Ahern, but very low prices. There's the hotel tax that's in Vegas you got to pay. And then rooms, we still have rooms at the Trump. We actually got them to expand the number of rooms we have at a discount and extend the cutoff for the discount prices by a couple of weeks. But those could easily sell out over the next week or two. So if you're wanting to stay at one of those locations as opposed to something else you come up with,
well, I'm connected, so I got a lot of friends that I can probably call and
I'm kind of connected also. I got
So if I'm coming, believe me, I'm coming. But I'll let you know. Maybe we'll make another show or two before I do come out. But I'm steering towards coming out just because of the lineup you have is just so incredible.
Well, and by the way, the prices go up here. I think we have it for the next day or two where the price is cut off and the price goes up from 600 to 700. And there's valid logistical reasons for that because, of course, I've paid already up front to reserve the location, do all the setup, stuff like that. And they have to plan ahead for the food that's present based on the number coming and all sorts of things. So we prepay for all that. So there's a very sound reasons why that price goes up. If you're going to hold off, you're going to end up paying a little bit more. And the last minute ones that come after the end of the month, it'll go up another jump for people coming in at the very last second.
Right.
So, that's the way it is. I hope everybody here gets in early and it's going to be a blast.
Nino's going to be there. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen Nino's interview, he flew out somewhere with some gentleman. I'm not really familiar with the channel.
It's Soft White Underbelly is the group out of California. Huge.
And
let me just add this.
Yeah.
I know you were going to say it, but let me double down with it's a beautiful, well done interview. It shows Nino in a light that I think it's one of the most. If you haven't heard this material to understand who Nino is, then you don't understand Nino.
Exactly. Well,
and I don't want to damage the presentation or stuff I'd almost like to say right now myself, but I think it would be stealing from this beautiful interview. And I want people to enjoy it as it occurred and go listen to Nino, listen to the interview. I think it's only an hour. I personally learned all sorts of things that I didn't know about Nino that just reinforce why do I enjoy Nino so much. It's this other history. Go listen to it, and you'll be well served.
Well, we're glad that Nino has decided to go clean, and I know I struggle with a lot of that stuff too. And maybe one day when I get as big as Nino, someone will interview me about my life story, but it's going to be a little longer than an hour. Even though I was not a boxer or world champion, but my boxing was different, the school of hard knocks in the streets, right? But a lot of similarities. That's why I resonate with him. And that's why when him and I do a podcast, a lot of people say, why don't you guys do more podcasts together? You guys click. And we do. There's definitely some chemistry there. And I think everybody knows why. But anyway,
well, let me just add one thing.
Yeah.
Probably everybody in this audience, some stories are more broadly known. Some people are, bigger personalities or whatever. But the reality is, if you really go in and look at each individual life here, the nuances that got you here, even back to a young age, are pretty incredible, coming from different vectors, different locations at the same central place. Okay. We've got different paths. We're coming to this one central place, even from, Christianity, narrow is the gate, narrow is the way, but the paths that lead to that entrance into some heavenly kingdom through Christ, so varied. I was talking with a friend who's a PK, pastor's kid, and the things that they went through that you think, oh, it was all perfect and everything else, and parent that's well known and stuff like that, and then you get into the nuances, and man, what a struggle, fights that they're put into that even include physical, but that you just don't realize they're there, but they're here within this community. And it's somehow the totality of all the various players, this broad cross section, that makes this patriot community so beautiful, amazing, enjoyable to be part of. The variety, the spice, that's what makes this audience so cool and fun. And of course, events like the Storm Summit, epic, because you get to meet such an amazing group of people and be part of it and enjoy it together. It's a
absolutely
Woodstock for our age of a different type.
Absolutely, brother. It's such a fun event that we just had with this podcast. I know you're very busy putting together the Storm Summit, and I know what it's like because I've done a few of these things myself, not on a scale that you're doing it, but pretty close.
Well, I mean, we've got busy stuff. I'm over here in Asia, and I've had groups that flew in to meet with me, and in fact, John Chambers flew over yesterday, and we had a beautiful evening and dinner last night, and another guest that we had with us. And then I had people in from other locations that we met with earlier in the week. I headed to South Korea in a couple of days, meeting with the former prime minister there and cabinet officials and like that. By the way, I didn't quite get to what we were talking earlier. You were giving China all this ground, like we're going to yield to them. Fuck China, take this and stuff it in place that.
Me personally, I wasn't giving them any ground.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Before we're done, in a Reagan-esque sense, it didn't happen while he was in office. It happened after he was gone, but he was the one that laid the groundwork for it. Tear down this wall. Watch what happens with North and South Korea. We are deep into this. They think they're going to take over South Korea and hold it with these fraudulent elections and the president in prison. Mm-hmm. We're going to go kick him in the ass. Watch what happens with North South Korea.
Yeah.
We're not backing off for an instant. The people in North Korea are in dire straits, and we're going to come break them free out of the slavery. And the same thing in Cuba, okay? The stuff that's going on right now in Cuba. And by the way, I've had somebody working for almost a year at great expense to put together something that you won't believe when I release it related to Cuba. And I don't even want to let the cat out of the bag. That's just stunning.
Maybe you can tell me in private.
The intelligence community.
I know you trust me.
The intelligence community like that. We have it all.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I'm going to release that sometime. It's being worked on hard right now, but it's not quite there yet. So I'll let you know.
Well, a lot of big podcasters out there who like to, make themselves bigger than they actually are. But I would never give China any esquire and being able to take over Taiwan. The only thing I could tell you is that I basically told you, hey, this is what other people are saying. How do you react to what they're saying? And you said, no way. I think I hit a funny bone. I think I got you really animated there for a little bit.
You did, because you pissed me off because you're saying you're going to get something. We're not giving any ground. We're taking ground.
Yes.
We're taking ground. That's why he said in the Thursday thing, we're coming after you.
Yes.
And we're not letting you get away with this.
I love when I hit that funny bone.
Fuck.
Juanito, next time, brother, I'll see you in Vegas. I'm 99% sure I'm coming. As a matter of fact, I might just tell my wife. Yeah, exactly. I'll be there. I'll make sure I get there. One way or another, come hail over hot water, I'll get there.
All right, good. You'll be smart to do that, and I hope a lot of your listeners are there too.
I will make sure that my listeners make sure that they will find out that I'm there.
All right, beautiful.
All right. Thank you, brother. Love you.
All right.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Stop! Don't you dare scroll!
Because I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that we've been bamboozled in ways that you can't even imagine. From the creator who dared to question everything in Dear Mr. President comes a revelation so explosive, it will shatter your perception of reality. I'm about to tell you a story that is going to absolutely piss off a lot of people in the United States of America.
Want to know how the trick is done? Du bist ein Strawman. It's a strawman operation. You are the strawman.
This is the biggest scam ever, and your government, it thinks that you are stupid. Your local hospital thinks that you are stupid. The system is broken. It's working exactly how it was designed, just not in your favor. Garish? Welcome to the movie Dear Mr. President, Show Me the Money, a movie about the straw man. This is a story that's going to piss off 8 billion people, a story that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that a lot of you are worth 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, and more.
Okay, my understanding of the legal fiction, which is also referred to as the straw man, I believe that they actually give us a fictional entity which we can actually use or not use. And I believe this is and a lot of other researchers do as well, that this is your name in either uppercase or with a title.
So what is this legal fiction of yours? It's your twin brother or twin sister, born the same day you were. Yes, you've had a twin your whole life, which was created by contract. The birth certificate your mother and father signed when you were born was a contract. The signing of that contract gave authority to the Social Security Administration to create a legal fiction that just happens to mirror your name.
Listen, if you were worth $100 million or $200 million, wouldn't you want to know? I know, I sure as hell would. We kept it dumbed down on the 3rd and 4th grade level of education, not because we think that you people are stupid out there, but because we believe that it needs to be dumbed down so that everybody can understand it. They've dumbed me down too, okay? I'm part of this whole entire thing. We found the most elementary videos out there to tell the whole story, and we glued together that is going to absolutely leave you flabbergasted. The only thing I can tell you from this point forward is that you go get a marriage license, it's a bond. You get divorced, it's a bond. You get a driver's license, it's a bond. You get a fishing license, it's a bond. You get a hunting license, it's a bond. You get a ticket, that ticket gets traded. Ticket like a speeding ticket. Any kind of traffic violation at all. That's why the cops out there, most of them are as dumb as a box of bricks. They know nothing about nothing, and they allow this shenanigan to play out because the guy upstairs is not going to explain to them what they're really doing. The guys upstairs know how the game is played. They're making a lot of money. These cops knew out on the street what is going on, what is being perpetrated onto the American people, not to mention the fact that we got bigger fish to fry than stop little old ladies that are doing 12 miles an hour over the speed limit, who's part of the social insecurity system, the social slave system, who's still got to go to work and is pressed for time and is doing 12 miles an hour over the speed limit, and you got 9 guys with 17,000 lights around them intimidating them. I think that's wrong. There is no emergency here, okay? And they intimidate you, they bamboozle your words. And I hate to tell you, more than half of your cops know what they're doing. They know how the game is played, except they're not allowed to make the big money. They got the highest divorce rates because they have financial problems. Meanwhile, they're stopping you. They're trading all of this money that they're collecting from the public and putting it up upstairs. And all these people are making all of this money. The only thing I can tell you is this. What you do from this point forward is up to you, because you should move this movie out to everybody you know. Guys, it's time to wake up. Watch the movie for whatever it's worth. Get it out there to everybody, because you know what? We have to wake up everybody. You know why? Because we're in a war. In a war, there's going to be casualties. Look, I understand what kind of risk I'm putting myself through. I get it. But the reality is someone's got to do it. And I'm not afraid of anything or anybody except for my God. Thank you and enjoy the show.